Argentina is defaulting on its debt. Is this the canary in the mine for the coming global sovereign debt crisis? So there is a debt default taking place in Argentina. Now, this is a huge economic story which is gaining almost no exposure, at least from the mainstream media in the UK. It is covered in the Financial Times. So this story here, Argentina imposes currency controls. Let's take a closer look at this story. Argentina on Sunday slapped currency controls on businesses to prevent capital flight after the peso lost more than a quarter its value since the primary elections last month. In its latest move to stave off a rapidly spiralling economic crisis, the central bank will require exporters to repatriate earnings from sales abroad, while all companies, not just banks, must seek authorization to sell pesos for foreign currency after it lost $3 billion in reserves on Thursday and Friday alone. The move follows the surprise announcement on Wednesday that Argentina will seek to defer payments on $101 billion of debt, which rating agencies Standard & Poor's briefly classed as a default on Thursday. This is Standard & Poor's. This is the company that was giving AAA rating to mortgage derivatives just before the housing bubble blew up in 2007. This is the classic Standard & Poor's rating agency. So they said, oh, it's a default. Then they retracted on that, even though this is a technical default. If you say at any point, you're not going to honour payments on debt at the time given, that is then a technical default. Standard & Poor's briefly classed it as a default, but they've gone back on that now, saying, hey, look, you can restructure, you can change payment dates. That's not a technical default, which it is, but this is Standard & Poor's, which gave AAA credit rating to mortgage-backed derivatives, which blew up in 2007. Now, this is a big story because I believe the problems that we are seeing in Argentina are the problems that we are soon going to be seeing in most Western countries. Now, Argentina on its own isn't a huge problem because the problem is many times smaller than the debts we have here in the UK, in Europe and in America. Our spending is out of control. Public spending is out of control in nearly all Western countries. We've supposedly had austerity, but the total debt in the UK and nearly every other Western country is still continuing to grow. We have huge unfunded liabilities. These unfunded liabilities are growing at an exponential rate. There are no way that these pensions, medical care, NHS, if you're in the UK, there's no way these unfunded liabilities can be paid because we are just offering more and more services, government benefits to more and more people. There's just no way this is going to be paid back. We're heading into an economic downturn, which means economy is going to contract, which means the debt to GDP ratio increases. It means fewer tax receipts coming in from businesses as they feel the recession bites. And we're heading into a scenario, thanks to quantitative easing, of a zombie economy, an economy which only can survive with very cheap liquidity, with very low interest rates, with more and more money being pumped in. We're going to end up in a zombie economy if we're not there already, which isn't going to be productive. It isn't going to be the economy we need to actually pay for the debts. And if interest rates go up, there's virtually no way Britain and most Western countries will be able to pay for their debts. Now, in 2007, 2008, it wasn't just a case of out of nowhere Lehman Brothers blew up and the whole global economy came crashing down. There were warning signals, if you were watching the markets closely, that signified impending doom. So in the UK, there's a big bank which is gone now. It's bankrupt, thankfully, called Northern Rock. This was a high street bank which was heavily involved in mortgage lending. They needed a liquidity injection from the Bank of England. This happened very early on in the credit crunch crisis. This happened in September 2007. Now, this bank was highly levered. It was running the foolish policy of borrowing short but lending long, which left it very exposed to any disruption in the financial markets. But Northern Rock went bankrupt very early on. If you're from outside the UK, you may not have heard of this bank. But the point is this was the canary in the mine. Northern Rock went it didn't go bankrupt very early, but it needed the liquidity injection from the Bank of England very early on, September 2007. Bearing in mind that Lehman Brothers didn't go bankrupt till September 2008, a whole year later. I think in March 2008, the Fed guaranteed loans to Bear Stearns, which people started looking around and thinking, hey, everything's not okay here. That was March 2008. But Northern Rock was the canary in the mine. The September 2007, if you were following the markets closely, you would have realised something big was happening. I think at that time, most financial analysts didn't really think that Northern Rock on its own would be a canary that was about to warn that the whole, not only mortgage banks, but the whole global economy was about to tear down. I believe Argentina is this canary in the mine. Now, Argentina isn't a particularly fiscally sensible country. This will be the 9th default that Argentina has been through. It's had many IMF bailouts. So it is a very weak country when it comes to avoiding things like defaults. It has a prior history of many defaults before. So this is the canary in the mine. This is Northern Rock 2007. This is the warning sign. This is the warning sign that sovereign debt crises are going to be coming and spreading across the rest of the world. Now, I don't expect the sovereign debt crisis to trigger as quickly as, say, Lehman Brothers collapsed just a year after Northern Rock. I think because of the amount of money and liquidity we're pumping into the system, to the ultra low interest rates, and generally the market still seems to have confidence in Western countries' ability to pay back debts, this is going to take more than a year to trigger. But I think this is a turning point. Argentina defaulting, potential bankruptcy. We'll see what sort of restructuring their creditors see. But long term, this is the canary in the mine. Follow the markets closely from this point, because it's about to get bumpy. So this is the debt clock from usdebtclock.org. It's equally depressing for most Western countries. I can't see many ways out of this debt situation. The problems that happen in Argentina are going to be coming to the West, and they're going to be coming to the West many times bigger, just because look how large these debts are. The US is the largest debtor in the world, but things are just as bleak in Europe and in the UK. I think the current debt crisis will eventually take down the euro currency if it doesn't fail for political reasons before then. All Western countries need to get their house in order if they are to avoid this coming crisis. I think for political reasons there's almost zero chance, slim to none, the chances of us seeing any politicians that are going to take this debt crisis seriously. Brexit is potentially a very good opportunity for the UK. I don't believe we have the politicians, again, with the actual balls to confront this situation and talk honestly with the public, but potentially away from the EU. The UK could potentially have a small hope of restructuring, but I think this is a huge problem that everybody should be aware of now. When this debt bubble blows up, it is going to be messy. It's going to be messy for everyone. Expect life to change in the West forever. But keep a close eye on Argentina, see what's happening there, look at the capital controls that they are experiencing, look at how the economy suffers and the bumpy road they are going through. Maybe it'll help you to prepare for what is almost certainly going to be coming to the UK, the US, Europe and most Western countries. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. Is this a problem? Is it not a problem? Am I over-exaggerating? A lot of people comment in the videos that I'm just over-exaggerating, but this is my honest opinion on what I'm seeing in the world. Jason from Liberty Bunkers signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.